Today, I'm excited to share with you a new topic of conversation, and it is when is the most appropriate time to use your whole body vibration platform, whether you're at home, whether you're at work, or whether you're at the gym like these ladies are behind me, and how they prefer to use the platform in coordination or to complement their workout. There's no right or wrong as to when the appropriate time to use your platform is. It all is based on preference. But I've got a couple clients here. We've got Dawn and we've got Tina, and they both have been clients of mine for close to a decade. And of course, I've been with Lifepro for a little over 4 years. So they've been with me from the very beginning of working with Lifepro. They've had access to these machines while we have been experimenting with them here and using them with our workouts, building workouts on them, but also they have platforms at home, and they've had their platforms at home since before the pandemic. So they have the opportunity to use what they already have at home, but they also have the opportunity to use all the different platforms that we have here, which is every platform that Lifepro has ever created. And then they have the opportunity to go back home and use again what they already have. So what I'm excited to share with you today is wanting to share with you their insight, not mine here at the start. We'll get into mine here in a little bit later, but their insight, because they do a variety of different things professionally. And we were just talking about some of the different ways that you can incorporate it through your job or occupation during the day in order to keep your stress under control, because we do know that the difference between having an autoimmune disease and not having an autoimmune disease is stress levels and cortisol. Stress hormones. So if you are able to manage your stress, should you have an autoimmune disease and you're trying to find ways to manage your symptoms or to decrease the onset of the symptoms, then it looks there's a lot of different ways that you can control that while utilizing the vibration platforms intermittently throughout the day. So without further ado, I know that we are streaming live between YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you can give me a thumbs up as to where you're located, and if you have any specific questions, not only for me, but for these young ladies who are used to working with me on a regular basis into how they're applying it at home, just wanted to give you just some insight besides mine, because mine is always, of course, evidence-based, but just theirs is just trial and error as to how it works best for their scenarios at home. We are located in Indiana, so, and we're out in the middle of nowhere like right now. So literally we are in the middle of a cornfield, about 30 minutes from the airport, but we're on like the closest gas station, grocery store is about 15 minutes away from here. So a very rural setting, which changes how our lifestyle runs, because we don't have quick access to a lot of different places in town, like many of you from, urban areas or metro areas. So I'm super excited. If you do have a platform at home, if you could go ahead and list which platform you have, because I've got a variety of platforms that we can show with today. We've got the Rhythm, which was actually the second or third platform that was ever created. And I haven't had it out in a while because it can be a little loud, but we also have the Turbo, which I know many of you have. We have had the Waver Mini. I've got every one of the RumbleX series here in the front of the room that we can adjust the camera to here in just a moment. But just let me know which platform you have, and if there's a specific question that you need me to answer today during this live series as to when is the best time to use your whole body vibration platform for given goals. So that's the other more important thing, is what is the given goal, or what is your preferred outcome by using the platform, whether at home or at work or at a gym. So Dawn, you want to come on up here and share? So this is Dawn. And what do you do, Dawn, professionally?
I'm a cafeteria lady.
Okay, so she worked. How many kids are we like serving through to the,
500.
Elementary, junior high, high schools?
Junior high.
Junior high. Ooh, she's getting everybody when they're going through puberty. So it's like, wow, like rip the hair out, right? When you've got a lot of things going on around. So what is a typical workday for you like?
7 to 1. I'm in, lifting, cleaning.
On your feet the whole time?
On my feet.
On concrete or on cement or
Yeah.
tile?
Yeah.
Okay. You've been here for several years. When is your favorite time to use the platform? If you have multiple, just share with whatever.
Morning and evening.
Morning and evening. Okay.
Morning to loosen me up, and then evening to kind of relax maybe, and then loosen up after I'm done here or whatever.
Okay. And when you are on your platform in the morning, do you use a specific program, or do you use it from a standing position or from a seated position?
Seating.
From a seat. And are you sitting on it, or are you sitting in a chair with your feet on it?
Sitting on it.
She sits on it. Now, is it okay for me to share a little bit about what we have been sharing over the last several years with some of your challenges?
Yeah.
So Dawn naturally gets very, very tight with her hips because she stands for work. And even before she was in the cafeteria working as a lunch server, she was before in a very stressful role, a variety of different stressful roles. But yet again, on a feet or in a one position constantly all the time. So we naturally have challenges in trying to balance out our hips, and I'm not talking just about Dawn, but a lot of you. We have problems with our hips getting tight, with our low back getting tight. But another thing that you have ran into with challenges in the last several years is almost like a sensation up here in your arms. And so we've also learned about different ways that you can use it for dealing with almost like restless arm syndrome. If you can imagine restless leg syndrome, if you can imagine your arms just having a natural tingling or a cramping sensation that doesn't go away even when you go to lay down at night, we have talked about different ways in which you can manage that using the platform at home. And part of that, whether it's from a seated position or from a standing position or hands on the platform, it's about lowering the hormones in the body based on perceived stress. So whether it's mental stress, physical stress, or emotional mental stress. What is your favorite program? And which platform do you have? She's got the Rumblex 4D. What's your favorite program? Or do you switch different programs based on which time of
I
day?
just do it all the lights across and on high.
Awesome. So you do a manual mode. Yeah. So there you go, my friends. You always hear me talking about P2. There is a difference in that she uses the Rumblex 4D, but she creates her own program. So she doesn't follow in recommendation of what I have suggested to all of you, not because she doesn't believe in it, but because it might not work for her. She has found that with the Rumblex 4D, if she lights up all three motors using manual mode and cranks it all the way up as high as it'll go, that's when she feels at her best. And so you use it in the morning to jumpstart your adrenaline hormones or your fight or flight hormones to get everything going. Sympathetic nervous system is loud and ready to conquer the day. But at the end of the day, when we're trying to fall asleep and we're restless and we're trying to process all of our thoughts throughout the day, you're able to use the exact same program to almost over fatigue your body and shut it down. So, and we've talked about that with doing that using P2. People have asked me, how can you use P2 in the evening hours right before you go to bed? Because for some of you, it might rev you up a little bit. And everybody's nervous system is different. Everybody's hormone levels are different. So if you haven't heard the hormone talk that I've spoken of in the past, make sure and go back and watch the YouTube video on how hormones regulate and how they differentiate when you're using the platform. So do you have a preference of getting on one right now?
No.
Okay. And when you're here, do you have a specific platform you enjoy using here just because you have access to every platform available?
Just whatever. Just whatever's available.
Whatever's available. So she just jumps on and goes. And we've actually created some workouts where you actually stop and do the platform halfway through, and then you jump back into the circuit. It just kind of refreshes the system while it's detoxing through stress hormones. So awesome. We'll put you on that one then, if you're cool with that. And I will go ahead and get you all set up. And then Tina, I'm going to talk with you. And since you like a lot of energy, we're going to see, I'm curious to see how you feel the difference, knowing that you use the Rumblex 4D. There we go. And this is just the basic turbo, so we just have two motors on this. All right, now we've got Miss Tina here, so come on up, Tina. And Tina is a wonderful, special client of mine. They're all special. But what makes you, give us a frequent fun fact that the people in our community know about you that the rest of the world doesn't know about you, and how you have made history as a woman in sports.
I am a state champion unified flag football coach, the only woman in Indiana that has a state title for flag football.
So she was the coach for a team, a unified flag football team that won the state championship. So you have a state ring.
I do.
That is so awesome. Yep. And you also coach what?
I coach bowling, track, and basketball.
Awesome. What is the group that you are primarily known to work with?
Special needs.
Special needs. And what is the age differentiation with the special needs individuals that you work with?
14 to 22.
That's tough.
It is.
So what kind of a weight difference are you talking about that you have to deal with every day? Like individuals that you have to carry or help
We don't
assist in
carry
lift,
anybody, but we have
assist
to
in lifting,
Um,
assist in transitioning from position to position?
anywhere between 150 and 300 pounds.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And how tall are those individuals?
Some of them are over 6 foot tall. Some of them are shorter than I am.
Which makes for a huge lever. That's a lot of strain on the back.
Yeah.
Well,
for
thank
sure.
you for what you do, because that takes a very special individual to be able to serve that group of individuals on a level that they truly deserve and that they thrive. And the rumor is that you are an exceptional teacher at what you do.
Thanks.
And an exceptional coach. So how do you use the platform?
I use it in the morning for when I get up.
And which one do you have?
I have the turbo.
She's got the turbo, the one that here that Dawn is on.
Yeah.
And how do you start your day on your platform?
It depends on what hurts.
It depends on what
hurts. I sit a lot.
Okay, sit your bottom on it or
Yeah,
sit in a chair?
I sit my bottom on it
Okay.
quite a bit in the mornings to get the hips loosened up, and a lot of times I'm on my hands on it. At night I'm standing, but mostly in the morning I'm sitting.
Okay.
So.
And when you are working with all of these amazing young individuals, are you frequently just standing position? Are you on your hands and knees? Are you getting up and down off the floor? Are you bending over a lot?
Not up and down off the floor, bending over a lot. It just depends on the day and what we're doing, whether I'm sitting a lot or walking a lot. I average from the time I get out of bed until I go to bed at night, 5 to 6 miles walking a day.
Wow.
Wow,
you guys.
We move a lot.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have a 1 hour gym period, and we walk for probably a half an hour of that, just so they're not getting bored with what we do. But we're in the hallways a lot. We walk a lot.
Yeah.
So
they don't do very well sitting for very long, do they?
They don't. No.
Okay.
No.
And what we were talking about earlier is the fact that some of these devices work really well for individuals with autism. And you work with a lot of individuals that are diagnosed with autism. Yep. And you've not had the opportunity to work with the platforms with autism, but we have, or I have, as well as many of you might have had some experience with loved ones at home or individuals that you get to work with in a therapeutic setting. And what we do know about those who are dealing with autism is that they actually respond very well to the platforms. It provides them a totally different level of neurosensory control in which they can almost remain grounded without having to pop an extra pill or a different dose of a pill or a different type of pill. So we do know that it does stimulate the nervous system in some different ways, and that it is effective in helping with individuals who are living with autism. So your favorite thing is getting on it in the morning in order to loosen up, and then at the end of the day, how are you using it at the end of the day?
Still depends on what hurts.
Still depends on what hurts.
Yeah. Usually in here we sit, but then before I go to bed, I get back on it and I usually just stand.
Awesome.
After I shower.
If you could have one of these at your school within your classroom that you're working, would it make sense to use it for you throughout the day, knowing what it does for your stress through,
for sure.
Start and finishing?
Yeah.
How would you attempt to approach the use of it at school if you could have one at school? Would you use it the exact same way, or would you just stand on it in order to just get a quick charge?
Use it a different ways.
Very cool. Well, I love that you do what you do. So thank you for doing what you do. Both of these women work with our young children and older children in our school system. So thank you, because it takes, again, a special group of individuals. How stressed are you when you get home?
I'm pretty stressed.
That's why they're here. That's why they're here.
Pretty stressed.
They're here to de-stress.
Yes.
Good deal. Have you been on the rhythm before?
Not in a while.
Okay. Well, let's have you jump on here and just see what it does for you. So those of you who are watching, and I'm just going to tell you, this one's really loud. If you've not heard this one before, it's loud, but it packs a punch. So if you all have any questions for these amazing women, let me know in the comments section. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and put my AirPods on, my mic on, so that you can hear more of me while you're watching them. And then they're going to jump into their workout in the backstage here behind us, and that way they can de-stress in addition to what they're already doing. So again, if you have questions on how to use your platform at home, or if you have comments on how you might be using it at home, what time of day you're using it, and how you have worked to minimize discomfort. Either one of you guys have restless leg syndrome? No, just in the arms. But we have done some stuff with the vibration, with the massage guns. We've done a lot of work with massage guns on the arms. Thank you guys so much for being part of our show today. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and transition into microphone mode so that we can hear the best of what I have to share with you today, because I want to share with you how it changes physiologically in the human body while they're using it, and you can see how their body is working. All right. So, question is, can you all hear me okay? There we go. Hopefully you can all give me a thumbs up if you can hear everything okay. I might sit on one of these platforms, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go get one of the Horizon balance trainers, and I'm actually going to sit on this platform I'm talking to you. So I'm going to have you observe them while I'm grabbing the Horizon. And I'm just going to have a seat right here in front of them. Hey, there we go. Thumbs up? Thumbs up. Okay. Anyhow, so we've talked about a lot of you've seen me record several different videos in the past, or many of you might have seen several different videos in the past of different times in which I might be demonstrating some of these different platforms. For me personally, I like to get on it in the mornings when I actually make and prioritize time. If I know I've got a really busy day working with clients and doing soft tissue work with my hands, I'm going to be bent over a table and working with a lot of individuals and their bodies and eliminating pain. Unfortunately for me, my body absorbs a lot of that energy as I'm trying to shift and rearrange their bodies. So one of the great advantages when I've got clients that are walking in to use the platforms, in addition to the treatment with me, I actually use the platform as an assessment tool for a lot of my clients. So if you're a therapist or you're a practitioner in the medical field, I can teach you as to how to use it in your business setting, or in instructing your clients or patients how to use it at home in order to help with minimizing different areas of pain without having to take an extra medication, or if somebody's trying to get off medication. When it comes to having the clients get on the platforms, though, I'm able to jump on in between clients. So it keeps me fresh. It keeps me able to maximize my day and how I'm able to work without increasing the stress on my body, because again, body work and being a training coach and being a mental coach, we absorb all the energy that we're trying to fix. And so that has to be dissipated somehow. And the platforms automatically dissipate a lot of that energy so you don't take it home with you. So the question comes, how soon after a meal can I go on? That is an excellent question, because I have learned this the hard way. If I don't get on my platform before I eat breakfast in the morning, which for me is not a big meal, I usually do a protein shake or a smoothie, or I do a protein cookie, but I don't eat a big breakfast. Although today I had a big brunch because my daughter's first day of summer was today, so she wanted a full country spread. So I made her a full country spread. So we had a late morning breakfast, early lunch. But if I'm going to eat, make sure you get on it before you eat, because one of the things that the platforms do is it stimulates all these abdominal muscles and the diaphragm to repetitively contract and relax. So it creates a hyperspasm or hyperstimulus to spasm. And when that happens, if you have just recently eaten and your body is trying to digest that, there is a good chance you're going to get some acid reflux, or you're going to almost feel nauseous because your body has tried to go into parasympathetic nervous system mode to digest what you have just consumed. And then when we get you on the platform and you are creating more of a stimulus, then the brain is almost confused as to what it's supposed to do. And so the vagus nerve has the ability to shut it all down by giving that signal of reflux, or a little bit of, how do I say it? Not really vomit in your mouth, but you feel like you're going to bring up your meal, or you can taste it coming up before you get off the platform. So definitely make sure that you get on it before you eat. I would wait kind of the same idea as going swimming in the summer or going on a roller coaster ride after you eat something at the amusement park. I would give yourself about 45 minutes to an hour after you eat before you get on your device. And if you get, here is the difference to that rule. If you are wanting to use it on your lunch break and you have to eat and you still want to utilize it after you're done eating on your lunch break, make sure that you stay in a seated position. Not sitting on the platform like these wonderful women were talking about earlier, but actually sitting on a chair and just putting your feet on it, because just having your feet on it is going to provide you some extra energy, but also extra relief. It's going to help in energizing your legs by removing a lot of the toxic components, I should say. So in other words, if you have restless leg syndrome just from sitting, or if you are sitting for long periods of time and you're going to be sitting the rest of the afternoon, the platform does a couple of different things. It depends on how you look at it. The platform is going to stimulate your muscles to work like a pump. And so this is going to go into the question of the lymphatic drainage. If you have a challenge with your body mobilizing lymph and fluid, and you're trying to get circulation down into the extremity in order to exchange, blood flow into the extremity, then you don't have to do that from a standing position. And so if you're wanting to do it on your lunch break before you go back to work, because you're going to go back to a seated position for a longer period of time and you don't have the ability to be vertical, then by all means, sit in a chair. I've got chairs behind these women here. They enjoy standing, and they're actually getting ready to work out. So that's why they're approaching the standing workout versus, from a seated position. But if you're able to remain in a seated position after you eat, then you don't deliver as much of that stimulus of contraction into the gut area. It stays more into the legs, depending on how your hips are aligned with the knees and the foot ankle. So if you are wanting to do it immediately after you eat, stay in a seated position unless you're 45 minutes after, and then you should be good to go if you're wanting to do it in a standing position. When it comes to lymphatic drainage, we want to make sure if you have an autoimmune challenge, or if you are suffering from an infection, or you are responding to a recent trauma and you're wanting to mobilize fluid in the extremities, we want to make sure that we don't hyperstimulate. So you want to keep it on a low level of intensity. I've got these women running on high levels of intensity. I think Dawn's has kicked off because her body's not moving anymore. So, so when you get off there, how do you feel?
Good. Loosen up.
Good deal. So when it comes to lymphatics, if you want to choose whatever platform you have, if you have the RumbleX, one of the RumbleX platforms, I should say, you're going to want to choose the P1, the P3, or a manual mode setting on low level of intensity, which is going to be about a speed of 1 to 20 on most of those platforms. If you have the turbo, which is what Dawn is standing on, you're going to go into manual mode, which is a little more challenging to adjust, or you can just keep it in a P1 to a P3 mode. In doing that, you're going to keep the level of intensity much less, and so you're able to lightly create a massaging effect in the lower body by stimulating that pumping mechanism. But when we're trying to work more of the lymph nodes and mobilizing lymph using a pumping mechanism, we want to make sure that we are keeping it on a lower level of intensity if we are suffering of pain, or if we are suffering of a recent setback. If we've got, if we have an infection, we have to be really, really careful as to whether we use it or not. You can use it in pulsation mode. If you have the turbo, it comes in pulsation mode, and you can isolate that. And if you have the waiver or the rhythm, we only have oscillating modes in those, so you're not going to want to use that on a low level of intensity if you have a recent infection, because we don't want to mobilize any infectious cells through the rest of your system through that lymphatic drainage process. So make sure that you're just using a pulsation where you can absorb the energy through a slight vibration through the feet, but we want to make sure that we're mindful not to use anything aggressive, not too much vibration, if we're already sore, in pain, or trying to overcome a recent infection. I know a lot of physicians are using this for oncology patients, after they've gone through their chemo or radiation, they're trying to expel those toxins as fast as possible. And so again, they're teaching their patients to take the devices home and using it on a low level of intensity, because if you're already trying to fight, if your immune system's already down, you're trying to fight and improving your overall wellness levels. You don't want to create too much hyperstimulation that your body goes into more as a sympathetic state of reaction. And that's what can happen for those who have a compromised immune system. So just be very careful if you're doing lymphatic drainage for the purpose of trying to circulate more blood flow into the extremities while pumping all the junk out of the system. If you are either heavily medicated for a recent infection or you have an active state of infection, because we want to be really careful with those kind of things. When it comes to overall, if you've got lymphedema or if you've got peripheral edema a lot of times can be heat induced. It can be induced because you've been on your feet all day. And again, if you don't have an ultra sensitive system, then you can actually use the devices on a higher level of vibration if you're trying to eliminate pain so that you can actually be vertical and moving around. So for instance, I've got a gentleman who weighs about 350 pounds. He was a little over 400 pounds when we started working with him. And when he first came in, he couldn't move much at all because he had so much lymphedema that it felt like his legs were tree trunks and he was just dragging around dead weight. So for him, I put him on the Rumblex Max because it has a higher weight capacity. And we put him on the P16 program, which activates all three motors at a high level of intensity. And he could actually feel the lymphatic channels opening up into his lower limbs, but he also felt circulation into his limbs and he felt relief of pressure and pain. So for the higher end of the spectrum, that worked better for him because he didn't feel it with the lower levels. So everybody's a little bit different, but we just want to make sure, depending on what your case and scenario is, if you are just dealing with a lot of extra swelling because you have had a lot of salt or because it's really hot outside, which creates natural inflammation, you might be able to tolerate a higher level of intensity in order to deplete those extra toxins. And the reasoning behind that is because we're creating a higher level of pumping through the muscle activation, which works in pushing the lymph around, because our lymphatic system, different from our cardiovascular system, doesn't have a mechanical pumping mechanism that moves fluid. It's all activated through muscle energy and through how gravity or how your hands can work in mobilizing those fluids. So hopefully that answers your question, Lisa. Back to you guys. You guys are welcome to jump into your workout if you want to, and feel free to jump back on the platform in between exercises if you feel the urge to do so, or before you head home. And if you have questions, let me know. Meantime, I'm going to continue to visit with all of you. What are some, so we talked about that. We talked about the meal. And so I'm seeing a lot of different platforms that are listed here. The Rumblex Plus 4D is actually the one I'm sitting on with the Horizon, and it's completely flat, which makes it ideal for somebody who has got artificial joint replacement. So if you have had a total knee or total hip replacement, this is going to be more ideal for you. And if you have had an SI joint injury, or if you are ultra sensitive to pain in your lumbar spine or in your coccyx because of a recent injury, and you can't sit on something flat, you can use the Horizon Balance Trainer as an extra cushion to receive that vibrational energy. So awesome. So if you can see how I got that positioned on here, you can use that to actually sit on in order to receive the energy without being on a hard surface where we have pressure points in our sits bones and our booty, or where we have our sciatic nerve. So if you have sciatica and if you have a lot of pain with a seated position on the platform, but you really want to stimulate relief in those external hip rotators with, causing the symptoms, then you can actually sit on the Horizon here, and it softens your tush a little bit as you're receiving the energy. So I'll turn that on here in just a second. But again, if you have questions on when is the best time to use it, you saw the ladies got on here and have no trouble with jumping back into the routine and doing their workouts. And then sometimes, I'll be honest with you, when we first started utilizing the vibration platforms here several years ago, before the pandemic hit, a lot of these women would get on here, right after they were done working out in order to flush all of the lactic acid and in order to detox their bodies before they went home so that they didn't go home and go to bed and then wake up sore tomorrow because they had worked really hard. Because our workouts are not exactly easy here. But, those who are wanting to push full throttle, if you do CrossFit or if you do boot camps, or if you are doing stuff in the weight room, you're bodybuilding, or maybe you're, you've been away from resistance training or cardiovascular training and your body's not used to it and you're dealing with the delayed onset of muscle soreness, which is when your body just really hurts after exercise. When you get on a platform after you have exercised, doesn't really matter which level of intensity you use as long as it's tolerable for you, but it helps to continue to mobilize fat cells so that you can continue the afterburn, which is when you actually lose fat in your system and losing inches. So it helps to calm certain things in the system down hormonally so that our growth hormone and testosterone levels can kick in while we sleep on a more heightened state. And then when we wake up the next day, that we're not sore or exhausted or full of toxicity from not being able to flush all those toxins out. Can I use my Bosu ball on my RumbleX Pro? Yes, you sure can. The RumbleX Pro, it has a little bit of a curve to it. And Bosu, for those of you that don't know what Bosu is, Bosu was the first dome platform to come out over 20 years ago. I had my first one over 20 years ago. And so fortunately, we have the Horizon, which is very similar, but yet different than the Bosu. But in general, if you have a Bosu trainer at home, you may also use that on the RumbleX Pro. In fact, I would be happy to demonstrate how to do that with the curve. If you are feeling a lot of teeter-tottering or a lot of instability between if you're using a Bosu, between the Bosu or with the Horizon, because of the curve, just take a towel, take a large towel like a bath sheet or a beach towel, and fold it a couple times and lay it across the center, and then sit your balance trainer on top of that. And then it keeps it a little more smooth and steady if you're wanting to soften how much of, if it's uneven or unlevel between the two surfaces while it's vibrating. And if you don't want to feel that energy, then just lay it on a mat, or you can, we have the dampener sound mats that come with, or a yoga mat, or you can take a towel and lay it across and just sit it right on top. But a Bosu works just the same as the Horizon, and it just depends on how old your Bosu is, because I know my original Bosu was super slick. When the pandemic hit, I sold every single Bosu I had because they were, I didn't want to have to deal with disinfection, not knowing what was coming. So when we reopened our building, thankfully the Horizon came out shortly after we opened about 9 months ago. And so now we've got the Horizon balance trainers. But yes, you can use a Bosu on your platform just fine. It's all the same. At the end of the day, it's a very, very similar concept. The only difference I want to make sure of, if you have a Bosu, is the one thing that I love about the Horizon is it has a textured surface on top, and it has these recessed handles, and then it also has a textured non-slip surface on the dome side. So you have non-slip textured on here, as well as on the other side, whereas the Bosus don't. The Bosus don't have a non-slip texture on top. The originals or the home use Bosu do not have the textured non-slip surface on top, and it does not have it on the bottom. So there's a good chance it'll actually slip off. So make sure and use your extra mat that comes with, or make sure and use a bath towel or a beach towel over the top of your platform, because it creates some stability for a super slick surface going on top of the surface of whatever device you're using. So it does work. All right, let me turn this unit on, and you can see how. So I can just sit here and have a conversation with you guys, but again, if you've got low back spasming, if you've got mid back spasming, your neck and shoulders have been hurting, you can actually put your hands on the Horizon and allow this energy to work up through your arms and into your neck. If you're wanting to do some ab work, you can pick 1 foot up at a time and you can switch. So we call this the dead bug marching. So we can do that while we're in a seated position, receiving this energy into the glutes or into the piriformis, or the external hip rotators that commonly create a lot of back pain. But there's all different ways that you can work the horizon while sitting on top of the platform, whichever one you may have. So again, if you have other questions, please don't hesitate to list if you have. Okay, let's talk about injuries, because in general, there's not really a specific right or wrong time when to use your platform at home. If you're using it for weight loss, if you're using it for relaxation, if you're using it to jumpstart your day. We did a shared video several months ago when the Relaxify first came out, if I remember right, and Joel and I were on the air live together, and we got to share with all of you how to use, when to use, or how he likes to use it, and he likes to start his day with it. But he went into manual mode and started at a low level of intensity just to get his body going while he was, doing his meditationals and just, quiet time before getting up and getting started. I remember him talking about that. Now, I will just tell you, my husband, we've got 2 platforms in my home. We've got the Rumble X 4D upstairs, and we've got the Rumble X Plus downstairs. I don't spend a lot of time downstairs except for when I'm writing. However, that was my studio before we opened my gym back up. So you've seen a lot of videos from my basement. But when I am at my desk writing, and I do most of my writing late at night, there's a lot of times that I am really tense and uncomfortable after sitting at my desk for several hours, that it's not unusual for me to get online at 3 o'clock in the morning before I go to bed, just to be able to shake all the jitters out and just being able to shut things down and relax. Now, my husband, he works on his feet all day on concrete. He works in a manufacturing plant, and then he's also a farmer. So if he has been on concrete all day with his feet and ankles bother him, and his hips and his back bother him. So before he sits down in the evening in order to watch some TV or watch some news, he'll actually stand on the Rumble X 4D on the P2 setting, and he'll do it for 2 different 10-minute intervals, and we'll just stand there and shake. So he doesn't do any specific positions. He'll just get on there barefoot, and he'll just let it shake him so that when he actually sits down in his chair, he can actually unwind and relax before he goes to bed. He seldomly ever just gets on the platform and then just goes straight to bed. Now, my daughter, for children, when it comes to children, you can use, there's mornings where she was struggling trying to get up to go to school towards the end of the year. Of course, when school gets started at the beginning of the next year, they're all excited to be at school, right? But in the middle of the year, it's like, oh, do I really have to go to school? Yes, you really have to go to school. So what we would do is before she would eat breakfast, we would get her on one for maybe 5 minutes, because she didn't want to be on it for very long. But we put her on it for maybe 5 minutes on a moderate level setting, just whether it's a P1 or a P3, because a P2 for her being 11 years old and 100 pounds was too much. So for her, we would just have her get on it, and it would wake her up enough to where she didn't have the urgency to want to fall asleep before leaving for school or on the car ride to school. And so it worked out really good for her. However, she is in a huge growth spurt right now. So she is 5'5". She wears a women's 11 shoe, and she's only 11 years old. So her knees are starting to bother her a lot. Her feet are starting to bother her a lot. And then there's times when she's playing volleyball, because she plays volleyball, as her primary sport. Then her back starts to bother her if she's been doing a bunch of hitting over the net. So for her, we'll put her on the platform after she gets home from school or before she goes to bed, again on a P1 or P3 setting, or if there's a motor that she doesn't enjoy feeling, then we will isolate the motors on the Rumble X unit, and she'll stand and enjoy that just to soften any kind of swelling in her knees from the jumping, or just to calm her body down. Now, I have to stand here and itch because being on that horizon, I am like really, really itchy. I usually get itchy around my torso, but I'm actually itching in my booty and in my groin, and feeling that all over. Yowzers. So I haven't sat on one for a while, so I can feel the itching sensation is real. Okay, but going back to, I want to make sure we go back to covering the grounds if we have had an injury. So when it comes to individuals who come in to see me, I am known for managing pain instantly, whether it's an acute injury, meaning it has just happened today, whether it is 3 days old, whether it's a week old or several months old, or if it's an autoimmune condition. But nonetheless, if we have an individual who comes in with a fresh ankle sprain, and we are trying to get their body to calm down a little bit. Believe it or not, by putting them on a flat surface, so if you have a curved platform, make sure and put a mat across it or put a towel, but putting them on a flat surface in a seated position on a very low level manual setting actually calms their body down. And if they have fluid filling into the joint, it helps to push that fluid out so that it doesn't consume the joint, which allows them to move in a specific range of motion. And one of the biggest problems that we have with individuals who have had an acute injury is when the fluid goes into the joint. When we have fluid filling into a joint, then it's really hard to get the full range of motion, which causes more pain. So we're able to use the platforms for acute injury for helping to keep swelling from accumulating into the joint. Another one is the knee. If you have a knee injury and you already have a lot of inflammation, you can actually put your feet on the platform and use not all 3 motors at the same time on a Rumblex, but just using 2 on a very calm level, like a level 1 to 5, and just allowing it to move a little bit. But again, those muscles start to move with hyperstimulation and creating a pumping effect. So we're mobilizing fluid so it doesn't get stuck inside the joint, and then we create more pressure, more pain, and then unable to move. So if you have an injury that is, a week old, you can get on the platform multiple times a day. In fact, I actually send platforms home with my clients to use on a regular basis 2 to 3 times a day because it helps to reactivate muscles. So one of the first things that happens, especially in a knee injury, is we develop atrophy in the leg, like this muscle right here on the inner knee called the VMO starts to shut down, and the whole leg shrinks in the amount of muscle that it has. So what we're able to do using the platform is sometimes it's really hard to get things to jumpstart and work again. And if we can't get muscles to reactivate and start working again, then it's really hard to get them to grow. So that's how we use it for somebody who has been injured for several days and the muscles have shrunk in size, and we're trying to get things to start working again so we can restabilize the joint, we can get people moving again, we can decrease the pain and increase overall function. And being on the platform helps to activate those muscles in order to be able to fire again so that we can actually start strengthening. And in fact, we actually use them to strengthen the muscles as well. Now, I want to share a case with you. I just started working with this young man a couple weeks ago, and I sent the platform home with him. He had a motorbike accident about a year and a half ago. I want to say it was in December 2020, and he is not able to use, he broke his back, and so he's not able to use his limbs below the waist. He has very limited sensation in his butt and in his hips, and he doesn't have control over his muscles in his legs yet. So it's really hard to build muscle mass or to activate muscles that have been shut down for a really long time. And so I actually put him on the Rumblex Pro last week when he was in, and we actually had him in a kneeled position to where I'm positioned right now. And I had to stabilize his body because he doesn't have control over his body yet, but he was able to feel the muscles actually firing. And so when you are trying to get things to start working again after they've been shut down for a really long time, it's trying to wake up a bear that's in hibernation that doesn't want to come out of the cave, and we need the bear to come out of the cave. So for him, he's actually using the Rumblex Pro at home like 3 times a day, every day, in order to stimulate those muscles to recharge, start firing again so that we can get him walking, because there is a chance that he's going to be able to walk to accept his high school diploma. But for right now, he's in a wheelchair, and we're working with him on leg braces. But for him, we are actually creating major changes in his neurosensory as well as his ability to develop muscles in his lower body. But we're also eliminating the pain in his hips because he has to sit in a chair all day. So there's so many different ways that you can use the platforms, and there's different times that you can use the platform, which are more beneficial than others. But most importantly, each and every one of you has a different case and scenario, and has different circumstances, different conditions, different levels of pain thresholds. So whatever works best for you is definitely keep doing what you're doing, because there's different research that is out that says that it works at a certain time better than others. But at the end of the day, if we're trying to improve circulation to the extremities, So if you have diabetes, you've got MS, and you're not getting circulation into your extremities, if we can use the platforms to do that, there's no right or wrong time part of the day in order to do it. In fact, you can do it 2 or 3 times a day. When it comes to the time as to how much you can use it, in general, we have provided a general standard of 10 minutes. So a lot of the devices are pre-programmed for 10 or 15-minute programs. And you'll see in a lot of my videos that I've done the workouts that you can use the platforms for 30 to 45 minutes, and they don't cause you any harm, but it's different for everybody as to how much they can tolerate. So if you have an autoimmune disease, I can tell you I have fibromyalgia. When I used, so the Turbo was my very first platform, and then I had the Rhythm, and then the Rumble X4D came out. So I had all 3 of these within about a year's time. And again, having fibro, there are certain parts of your body that don't work as well as they should. You get stiffness, you get pain, you feel pain where there's really not a whole lot wrong with you. So I remember getting on the Turbo after not being able to exercise for a very long time. And I felt really good being on it. So I thought, oh, I can handle this. Let's go an extra 20 minutes. So I would do I did 30 minutes the first time I ever stood on it. And I didn't feel like I could walk for a couple of days. I mean, I feel like I had been in a hardcore workout, had been in an accident or something. My body just really hurt. And I actually had swelling. But because my body wasn't used to that kind of intensity for a lengthened amount of time, my body responded in the fight or flight mode and created more fluid and retention. However, it took a couple more days of just adjusting to the different intensities, and then everything reversed, and I felt great. And in fact, it's what gave me my life back was the platform. The platform truly, in my opinion, has saved my life, in that when I started using it, I didn't have control over my pelvic floor down here and the hammock of muscles. And so none of my abdominal muscles were firing. I had pain that wrapped around my hip. I was 200 pounds and I was miserable, and I was going through depression. So now that I've been doing it for several years, it only took me maybe 9 months to lose about 30 pounds when I first started working with some things. Bye guys, have a great night. So it didn't take me very much time to lose immediately when I started using it, because my body wasn't used to doing anything. And so, everybody has to work the process based on how your body receives it best. So there's general standard, 10 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on what the time setting is on your device. If you hear in some of my videos, we're going to do a 20 or 30 or 40-minute workout, you have to push the reset button. So when the machine kicks off, you have to pick another program for another 10 or 15 minutes, and you have to do that several times in a row. And that's okay. But we do that intentionally for a safety mechanism, so that you don't go to the gym like a lot of people do, and you get on the treadmill and you push the 30-minute button and you push the 5 miles an hour jog button, and you haven't been outside to jog in years, and you kind of set yourself to fail before you even get started. So that's why we set the time parameters as we do. When it comes to intensity, if you feel a little bit of itching sensation, as I just did, I had to get off of it because my butt was itching something fierce. And I don't know that I have ever felt my butt itch like that in quite some time, but sitting on the horizon on the platform at the same time of experience at P2, it was like, woo, we are feeling some detox going on. So I'm gonna have to do it again because it felt intense, but it's doing something right. And sometimes doing something right is worth going through a little bit of discomfort in order to push forward. But it's now that I'm not itching. So for me, I get the itching and then get off of it and it goes away. So you're not stuck with the itching long-term. It just happens temporarily when your body is eliminating all the junk in the trunk and detoxing. And in the end game is you actually feel better, you're able to move better, and your cellular metabolism improves overall, as well as the hormones. So that's a lot of information, but best time of the day to use it, whenever it's convenient for you. There's no rules necessarily. And how many times a day can you use it? As often as you feel like it's helping you. So if you are using it for the point of pain management, give yourself 10 minutes of every hour and see if that helps with your pain management. And I have a lot of clients who have been on narcotics for several months or several years because of chronic pain, whether it's back pain or spine pain. I have had different clients that have come in over the years to work with the platforms and learn about them. And within getting comfortable with them, working 10 minutes at a time up to several times a day, they're now able to disengage and using a lot of the narcotics or even the gabapentin. So if you're on gabapentin, you don't want to take it anymore because you're trying to wean off of it, give the platform a chance 10 minutes of every hour and see what happens. I've had a lot of clients who have responded very, very well with just 10 minutes at a time on a low to a moderate level of intensity, and they do it several times a day, and they feel phenomenal to the point that they don't have to depend on the medication to change how they feel. Now, I'm not telling you to stop taking your medication without talking to a physician first, because we want to make sure that you're doing it responsibly, but definitely look at whole body vibration as an alternative if that's something that seeks interest to you. Okay, now I'm not seeing any more questions that have popped up. So if you all have any more questions, let me know. If you have a specific platform that you're not quite sure how to get started with, or if there's a certain challenge or adversity that you're facing and you need some ideas as to when to use it, how to use it, timing, parameters, feel free to comment in the section, and we'll go about another 5 minutes and see what else we can do. I'm going to get back on this unit. But I'm going to go into a P3 mode and see what happens with that, because the P2 was way too much intensity for my butt to be able to tolerate. And I'm seeing some thumbs up, and I know this is, this for me is rush hour time is 5 o'clock. Actually, it's 6 o'clock now here in Indiana. So it's different times across the whole country. But if you have one at work, this is another really creative idea that we started doing several months ago when we released the Waiver Mini, or actually even the Waiver, was being able to have one because of the pandemic, and everybody was in a seated position, was having it underneath of your desk, and your feet and your legs are able to move while you're working. And if you can learn how to multitask with your legs moving while you're typing or on a conference call, or on a Zoom call for that matter, it works out really, really well in keeping everything stimulated and keeping things flowing in the extremity. One of the worst things that we can do for ourselves, if we are developing if we have bad metabolism or decreased levels of metabolism, we're starting to age a little bit more, we have a lot of stress, or we're dealing with depression, and we just have a really hard time getting off the couch and doing something, one of the worst things you can do is not move. Movement is medicine and motion is lotion. So if you don't have the energy to get your body moving, then get on a platform and let it move you. Because you don't have to do the moving. I like to call it the magic machine around here, because there are a lot of individuals, whether it's a weight problem, whether it is a pain problem, depression is very real, mental health is very real. And when you are mentally challenged, or you're suffering of depression, or you're grieving, it is really hard to talk yourself into moving, because it's just so much easier just to stay put. But naturally, when you're on the platform, regardless of how you're on the platform, it doesn't matter what position you're holding, if you're sitting on something like I am, or you're sitting in a chair with your feet on it, it is stimulating the response of hormones being released, and those hormones are responsible for making you feel good. So you're releasing dopamine, you're releasing oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, which are your natural painkillers, so you naturally feel pain relief. You have access to all those hormones just by being on a platform, but we are also we are also decreasing the hormones that cause us a lot of stress and a lot of tension and a lot of frustration, and cause us to age faster. It lowers those levels by being on it. So if you have a hard time getting moving, and you don't have the motivation, or you don't have the energy, or you don't have the level of pain threshold to tolerate, then by all means, just get on a platform, let it move you, because it's still mobilizing your fluids. It is still getting circulation into your body. It's pumping throughout the extremities. It's mobilizing fat cells. It is, detoxing the system. It is changing your fascial integrity and how everything aligns itself. And fascia is where our body stores a lot of emotion and a lot of pain. So if we can excite that tissue without having to exercise, because we don't feel the energy to exercise, then just by activating the fascia to move and to detox and to separate actually helps with the overall function of the entire body. So let me see what we got here as far as questions go. Yeah, enhanced daily movement is huge and overall well-being. I do strength training 3 to 4 times a week. Can I do this right before or after? You can do it both. And so we've got all these individuals in the gym. You can't see them in the perimeter, but we've got some individuals that are lifting the Lifepro adjustable dumbbells in the background. And some individuals, honestly, in order to get the body like revved up and going, if you think about how many people take a pre-workout beverage or take a stimulant or a hit of caffeine in order to be able to recharge and get the body going, just by standing on a vibration platform, not doing anything else, but just standing on a platform is going to jumpstart your engine so that you can motivate yourself to do more. You're also taking tension off of the body, and when we have tension is when we have injury. So by taking tension off of the connective tissue, taking tension off the muscles, most individuals, when they get off the platform, they feel like they're free floating, or they feel really, really light when they're moving around. So when you get off the platform, if you're at the gym lifting weights, you've now taken tension off of the system because it calms the fascial connective tissue down, which is what holds tension. But it's also, I'm not saying that this will happen every time, but if you have a history of back or hip pain when you're lifting, or you're worried about suffering an injury when you're weightlifting, then by all means get on a platform and just stand on it, because we're increasing circulation as a pre-warm-up before you actually do the workout. So the blood is filling the muscles are contracting, the brain is activating, and so our body is ready to go, which means we're not as likely to sustain an injury while we are exercising. So how about that? When it comes to after exercise, what you can do if you can create that hyperstimulation effect through the vibration by you either can go hard and create a lot of hyperspasming, or you can go light and use it for lymphatic flushing. But either way, if we can get different positions, or you just stand there and relax, then you can, again, enable more human growth hormone and testosterone to release because of how the body is stimulating through vibration. So you can use it before or after or both. It doesn't make any difference. If you are a runner or a cyclist and you're wanting to do exercise, you're wanting to go for a ride, or you're in a spin class, or you are doing treadmill work or running outside, you can get on a platform for 5 or 10 minutes instead of doing some light jogging just to get things rolling. You can get on a platform for 5 or 10 minutes and just do some air squats or do some air lunges and start stimulating the core muscle groups to start actively firing and working, and start anticipating how you're moving. That is kinesiology is our body's awareness in space. And it is if you think about how many teams that before they actually go out and perform at their highest level performance, they actually go and they jog, and then they stretch, and then they do dynamics, and then if you're a softball or baseball or lacrosse or rugby athlete, you're throwing a little bit before you actually go out and take the field for competition. You can use, if you are doing certain things on your own, whether you're an endurance athlete, a triathlete, you're a sprinter, if you need to get on here in order to start activating certain things and getting blood flow into those extremities, then when you actually do go out and jog, it doesn't take your body as long to get into the zone, or what we call in the flow. And then again, afterwards, highly recommend you just stand and let everything flush out. And that helps with, I have an entire barefoot program that I teach for a lot of athletes that are runners or impact related. So gymnasts is another one. They're able to get on and do barefoot exercises. So moving their toes around, moving their foot ankle joints around, getting into some deep squats and realigning the SI joint in the hips. There's a lot of different things you can do after a workout in order to enhance how your body feels and how it moves with tension after a workout by standing on the platform or sitting on a chair with your feet on it. Last but not least, I do want to share this with you. I've got quite a few gymnasts that I work with that are anywhere from a level 6 to a level 10. 10 is as high as it gets. And when I'm talking level 10 gymnasts, they're doing pretty much everything you're seeing when you watch Olympic gymnasts with the Olympic Summer Games. And so I work with a couple of different facilities, and we provide, or I should say we offer the platforms at their facilities. And what's really neat is when athletes are in between their training events. So if one is on beam and they're getting ready to go to vault, and they're, on beam. It's a very controlled environment, a lot of impact with landing. Everything is a lot of tension in order to be able to stabilize in moments of when they're unbalanced and getting ready to fall. So, but again, with the vault, they go from being in a very stable, very inline position in one spot to taking an all-out sprint to hitting a springboard dynamically and exploding into the air into multiple different flips and then sticking the landing. So with individuals, I see a lot of lower leg injuries, a lot of knees, and a lot of backs, and a lot of the gymnasts. And so we have the vibration platforms at their facility that they can stand on in between training events. So a typical gymnastics practice might be 3 to 4 hours. And so they get on it if they're at the beam for 30, 45 minutes, then they'll come back over, stand on a platform before they go onto vault or go onto floor. Or maybe they'll put their hands on it before they go on to the bars. That's just how you can use it within one sport, within the parameter of that sport. With softball, baseball, again, anything overhead, if we're trying to increase the blood flow to the upper extremity, we can be on our hands and knees working mobility circuits with our hands on the platform, shaking things up, getting things loose and ready to go, and stimulating blood flow, as well as we can do positions and lunges, forward backward lunges, side to side lunges, single leg balance, single leg squats, a lot of different things you can do on the platform to enhance your sport or your movement pattern or position for that matter in sport in order to prevent or minimize the onset of an injury and even managing an injury. So hopefully that gives you some extra options as to how you can use it. So there's a lot of different ways how I work with I work with a large variety of different clients. You saw the school employees that were in earlier. I do have another wonderful person. Rhonda, are you okay with talking on camera?
Yes.
She guesses. Okay, so I'm going to go off the AirPods here real quick. And I'm putting her on the spot. I totally called her out on this. So she's a bit on the nervous side, but she doesn't have to do a whole lot. So this isn't going to be all that bad. So if you want to come on over, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, and you don't have to get on a platform, but I want the world to know we have a lot of women in our facility. I work with a lot of men as well. They're not here tonight because they're elsewhere. But what I want to share with Miss Rhonda here is you do some hardcore workouts, like not working out here. Yes, she does here, but she does hardcore work. So Rhonda, what do you do for a living?
I am a retail manager. I run and operate loaders and forklifts.
Okay, so let's just say you work around a lot of construction equipment.
Yes.
You work with a lot of stones and rocks.
Yes.
And you work a very rigorous job. Isn't she awesome? She's awesome. I remember when we first got the platforms, you actually stood on this one over there in the corner before we had this facility all finished out. And what was the main purpose for you standing on that? Do you remember? Because I remember.
Yeah. It loosens up my bones, my joints, my muscles, and it helps me with my restless leg syndrome.
Restless leg syndrome, right here, my friends. So Rhonda had restless leg syndrome. And what happened when you didn't have access to the platform?
I got stiff.
She got stiff. And she would call me and she's like, Amber, I need to get back on the platform. I need to get one because my restless legs is coming back full steam. And when I'm on the platform, I don't feel it at night when I'm at your place on the platform. So we made sure to get her something that she could use, whether here or at home, because it made a huge difference in her restless leg syndrome symptoms. How much stress do you deal with throughout the day?
A lot.
A lot. She deals with contractors. She deals with a lot of construction workers. She deals with a lot of truck delivery drivers, delivering all the different types of stone and products that you guys run. And she runs the show, guys. She runs the show. So she is like rock star superhero herself. When is your favorite time to use the platform?
At night.
At night. Awesome. And what do you notice at night before you get on it? What do you feel most is beneficial to you? So when you are getting ready to get on it, what hurts the most? Or is there consistency to where you hurt?
It's pretty much legs, knees,
Lower body.
yeah, lower body.
Lower body. And so
Feet.
what do you feel when you get off the platform at night before you go to bed?
Like my joints and muscles have loosened up and I'm not as tight.
Right.
Like,
Awesome.
and stuff.
Now, one other special thing about Miss Rhonda here is she is a cancer survivor. So you have recovered from breast cancer, right? Are you afraid to use the platform?
No.
Okay,
No,
so
use it.
those of you who have a history of cancer, those of you who are at the end stages of your cancer treatments, Miss Rhonda here has been using it for several years because we've been with Lifepro for about 4 years. And she was one of the first people that got on it as soon as we got it here to the facility. And how long have you been cancer free?
7 years.
7 years. So shortly thereafter was when you
Yeah.
started using it.
Mhm.
And did you notice a difference in how your upper body felt when you used it
Yes.
initially?
Mhm.
Awesome. And do you like to use it when you're here at the building after you work out, or do you
Yes.
wait and use the one when you get home?
I do both. I use it here and then I go home and use it before I go to bed.
Okay, what kind of platform do you have at home?
This one.
She has the Rumblex Plus. What is your favorite to use when you're here and you have access to all of them?
I still use it.
She still uses the same one, so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Again, this is Rhonda, and she works with construction type equipment, works with a lot of materials, and works with a lot of stress. And she is using the platform to manage stress, but also to give her freedom to sleep at night when she needs to sleep, but also for detox. So thank you so much for sharing. All right, guys, that being said, I think we've been on here for quite a while, so I hope you have enjoyed the different perspectives that we can offer as to how you can use the vibration platform at home, when is the best time, ideally based on your situation, to when to use it, how to use it, time parameters, and some different positioning depending on which one you have and how to program it based on your symptoms and based on the outcomes that you're looking forward to. If you have questions specific, please don't hesitate to send us comments or send us an email, support@lifeprofitness.com, or you can feel free to send us something through Messenger and we'll be happy to respond to whatever questions, comments, concerns you might have. But more importantly, don't hesitate to share your story with us. If you are not part of our Facebook VIP group and you have a device, which I'm sure you have if you're watching, then go to the Facebook group and join the VIP group, and so you can hear all the different stories that are coming out as to how people are actually using the different devices in order to help with the general outcome of their overall health benefits. So thank you all again so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. It's Memorial Day weekend coming up. So I want to say thank you in advance on behalf of Lifepro to all of the veterans that are out there that are still living and thriving and using our products. And for those families who have lost loved ones to serving and protecting our liberties and our freedom, we thank you so much for your sacrifice, for your commitment, and for sharing your loved ones with us. So happy Memorial Day weekend to all of you, and have yourself a wonderful day. Bye.